instinctually, if you start with how you feel, that might tell that might get you started in terms of whether or not you feel like you are where you want to be. Because everybody sets different standards when it comes to money and stuff. Everybody sets different standards when it comes to everything. But anyway, first of all, I want to say good morning to everybody. I didn't mean to start without greeting you. Hello, Dolores Lee, Irma, Calvin McWilliams, Badia Muhammad. I see you, Joanne Dixon, Nicole Tony, Angela Taylor from Milwaukee. In Milwaukee, love Milwaukee. I spoke in Milwaukee, and I have this sign that's behind me that it was a hip hop week Milwaukee, and they had some really cool guys that invited me out there. And I only say guys because I don't remember meeting any women at that time, but they were cool people, and they invited me in, and I remember I gave a speech there, and it was really fun. And they're doing really good stuff in Milwaukee. Stefan out of California, nice, very nice, and Shanetta out of Colorado Springs. I don't think I've ever been to Colorado Springs. Sounds expensive. Good morning, Dot from Nashville, Tennessee. I had a really mean girlfriend in college from Nashville, so shout out to Nashville. It's a nice city. She wasn't so nice though. I think she married a white guy or something, but nothing wrong with. I mean, you can marry who you want. Some of y'all are married to white people, and I'm totally fine with whoever you marry. Anyway, so let's see here. Artra, good to see you. Good to see you, Vincent, from the air. Let's see. Oh, from the Scott Air Force Base. Well, shout out to all the veterans in here. Bless you. One of my friends is a veteran. And he called me and he was super happy. Hey Doc, I gotta talk to you, man, about some investments. I said, "Real okay, what would you like to know?" He said, "Man, I've been fighting with the VA for so many years, and they finally gave me my certification for I think he got hit with a mental illness or something, but they paid him a bunch of money, and they backdated it, a few years, so he got like money going all the way back to 2018. So he suddenly got like well over $100,000, and I said, "That's right. I have no problem. I think veterans should get every penny they ask for." I believe everybody who ever served in the military should get $100,000 a year for life until they die. Because I have so much respect for the sacrifice. But anyway, it was so funny because he was super happy to be like designated to have a mental health issue, and I didn't ask what the issue was, but I said, okay, so you are designated as mentally ill and you're trained to kill. I'm not gonna mess with you. So anyway, but he came into some money. He's a smart guy, and it was great because he was smart enough to know that that God don't always give you an opportunity every week to change your life in that way. And he was very adamant and very serious about taking that money and making sure he created that generational wealth. And he was asking where to put the money. And in case you want to know what I told him, I said, let's start with the basic mutual funds. I talked to you guys about these mutual funds, really simple ones that you can buy, like VOO, Victor, Oscar, SPY, Sierra, Papa Yankee. If you go to blackwealthmasterplan.com, blackwealthmasterplan.com is where we have the $5 a day investing plan. Which pretty much shows you how anybody from any income level can create a massive amount of generational wealth by taking very basic, simple steps toward just preserving your wealth. Just taking the money that you make, because remember, you make enough money in your life to make a lot of people rich. During your life, you make a ton of money for other people. If you pay your rent on time, let's do this exercise. We've done it. Some of you know that we've done this before, but I like to do this every now. How many of you pay your bills on time? Give me a guess if you have decent credit. Let's say over 680 or something. I'm not gonna set the bar super high. Some of y'all might be below this, maybe in the fives or the early sixes or something. It's okay though. It's all right. Paying the bills on time is a good way to get the credit score. But if you're above a 680, give me a guess. So that means you've been responsible, you've been paying your bills, you've been doing what you're supposed to do, and I think that's great. I can applaud you for that. But one of the things I really want you to just really understand is I want you to remember that word annuity. Basically, when you are paying your bill on time, when you're consistently sending money to another party on a regular basis, what you're doing is you're giving them an annuity. And an annuity, all an annuity is in finance is basically a consistent set of payments. just a consistent amount of money coming in over time consistently. And we did a lot with annuities. We would do all kinds of math equations where we could calculate how much an annuity is worth. Like if somebody says, I'm going to get $100 a week for the next 50 years, and somebody offered to buy this stream of money from me, the stream of cash flow from me. There are financial equations we can do that will tell you how much it is worth. It's based on assumptions like mainly the interest rate and the risk factor and the risk level, maybe some other variables. They might talk about like inflation or what they call the impatience parameter, which is kind of based on how impatient you are, how badly you need your money, what your other investment opportunities are, things like that. Like what else could you be doing with that money if you got it all in a lump sum? And so literally this is how these are the formulas that are used to determine, like you ever notice when you go and you buy a lottery ticket and they pretty much say, do you want your money as a lump sum or do you want it in payments, like so much per year, 50,000 a year for the next 20 years or whatever they say to you. Well, first of all, they do that to get into your head, right? They do that to kind of get you, because you stop for a minute, think about it. When they say, "So, what do you want? Do you want 50,000 a year for the rest of your life, or do you want it all in the lump sum?" And people start, they kind of smile. They're like, "Oh gosh, I don't know." Like they're really making a decision, like as if they're really going to get this money. And I think that that's a mind game. I think they're kind of playing with you a little bit to kind of get you to sort of fantasize about what it would be like to have that much money, which makes you more likely to want to go buy that lottery ticket, right? But I'm gonna just tell you, lottery tickets are a really bad financial investment. They just mathematically they don't work out. But then the other thing too is when they determine the difference in terms of how much you would get in a lump sum versus how much you would get in an annuity, that there's a math equation for that. It's called the present value of an annuity model, and basically that's how stock prices are actually valued as well. Most financial assets are valued on with that model on some level. So basically, that's so when you are paying money to another party, you're paying your bills on time, you're paying your car note on time, you're paying your cell phone bill on time, you're paying your rent on time. You are building an annuity for someone else, which means that you're giving them a stream of cash flows such that when they take that money over time, they are investing that money. That money's getting the benefit of compound interest. So you might look back and you might say to yourself, you might say, gosh, I added up all the rent I paid over the last 20 years. I paid, $1,000 a month, with, growing every year, for the last 20 years. So I can't believe when I added up all the money I gave my landlord, it came out to what would be a reasonable number. It came out to $280,000. Well, that's actually an incorrect assessment. Actually, what you actually gave your landlord wasn't like 280. It was actually more like $600,000. Do you understand? It was more like $600,000 because you're not accounting for all the compound interest that comes with those annuities. So most of you, if you pay your bills on time, you've made somebody rich. If you pay your rent on time, you've made your landlord rich. You bought your landlord a house. If you have paid your cell phone bill on time, you've been buying Apple products. You've given Apple some generational wealth. If you have paid for your car note on time, maybe you gave generational wealth to the Toyota dealer or the Lexus dealer or the Mercedes dealer, because we like our cars. We like our cars to be nice. All of us do. I told you about the car my wife bought yesterday. And nothing wrong with having a nice car, but just know that you are giving someone else generational wealth, and so you really want to. It's okay that you're giving other people generational wealth. I just want to make sure that you are one of the beneficiaries of the generational wealth that you're creating, right? We're not doing the ancient Negro tradition of making everybody else rich except for us. We're not singing the Negro spiritual about how happy we are that we made white folks' lives better. I don't hate white people, but I want my life to be better before I make your life better. We're not going to go into this whole tradition where in America we are accustomed to the idea of black people suffering and everybody else doing well. I think that if everyone else is doing well, you should be doing well as well. Can we get an amen? Give me an amen in the chat if you agree. And then we can move forward with our day. Give me an amen. All right. All right. So the question for today is, how do you know if you are doing above average financially? Right? Like how do you know? Like, how do you really know? Like, feel free to put a response in the chat. How do you know if you're doing well or not doing well? Right? How do you know? I mean, think about this. We evaluate our own financial situation regularly. We evaluate the situations of other people regularly. Like when somebody says, "Well, how's cousin Rerun doing?" Oh, he doing good. Well, what does that what does that mean exactly that he's doing good? Well, he got a good job and he's he's working down at the factory and he got him a new car and he like really, like I'm not saying that's bad. I'm just saying, like, how do you know? Like, but then if you say, well, how's so and so doing? Oh, they're doing bad. It might be something like maybe they're sick, or maybe they don't have a job, or maybe they're struggling, right? So how do you know if they're doing good? What does that look like? I mean, just to be quite honest, and when I wrote my book Financial Lovemaking years ago when I was at Syracuse, I remember studying like even I just came to this conclusion that men who just think that women are gold diggers because they care about money, you're just kind of delusional because just nature says women naturally care about that kind of thing. So most of the time, a woman in her natural state, not all women, I'm not defining or boxing in anybody in terms of who you have to be, but a lot of women they're kind of noticing like, are you doing good? Like they want to know if you're doing good, and if you're doing good, that does make you more attractive. That's what the science says. There's lots of evolutionary biology that says that this is true. I became much more handsome when I started making money. I told you that before. I looked the same in the mirror, but I guess I had the broke graduate student look, and then I had the rich college professor look. And apparently, the rich college professor look was in style that season, but apparently, it's been in style for a long time. So that changed a lot of interest maybe that I might have gotten from women and stuff like that. And it's fine, right? It's life, right? But here's the thing. What's interesting to me is that we always sort of we do these assessments of each other and ourselves as to whether or not someone is financially secure or has growth potential financially, or if they have maybe they measure by lots of disposable income. A person that spends a lot of money, maybe we say they must be doing good because look at how much money they spent. They went to the bar and they gave the waitress a $50 tip, or we went out to eat and we didn't go to Cheesecake Factory, we went to Ruth Chris Steakhouse. Or I'm looking at your watch and your shoes and your clothes, and that tells me that you're doing good because you got a nice watch and nice shoes and nice clothes. And so that's a little bit of a problem, just because you can kind of fake all that. Right? You can really fake all that. I mean, it's like makeup. Somebody can wear makeup and look differently from what they actually are. And so maybe financial makeup for men is when we will take our last couple dollars, max out the credit card and make sure that we have the fancy suit and the very nice car and the very nice apartment and all the things that will make you get the impression that we're doing well when really you haven't done the deep dive. And it's almost like looking at someone's body and saying, oh, that's a healthy person, when internally there could be a lot of things going on. They could have diseases, they could have cancer, they could have something going on. They could be bleeding internally for all you know. You don't know. They could be dying at that moment because you don't know. You haven't been looked at like what are you eating every day? Are you working out every day? What did your doctor's report say when your doctor gave you a medical examination? What did your doctor say? That would tell me more about your health than me just looking at you. So a lot of times, to some extent, when we measure how we're doing or how others are doing, we just sort of look at the body and just sort of make this guesstimate of how well someone's doing. And then also what's really crazy is that you're not only trying to figure out how well they're doing now, you're trying to figure out how well they're going to do in the future. Because to some extent, investing in a person in a relationship is like buying a share of stock. I don't really necessarily care as much about what the stock price is right now as I care about what it's going to be in the future. So that's when it gets really hard, because I have to sort of go and look at some metrics to determine which industries are going to grow and all that, right? So the same thing is true with people. Which man or which woman should I pick based on not just where they are now, but based on where they're going to be in the future? Because if you get it wrong, it becomes a tragic mistake. When I wrote that book, Financial Lovemaking, I interviewed a lot of people, and I remember talking a lot to women who, a couple of them had married like these athletes, and a lot of the athletes, not all of them, but some of them, just they have a really bad culture. The economic culture for a lot of athletes is very, very bad. Not all of them, but for a lot of them, it's very, very bad because you're making more money and you're only in your 20s. So, and plus, it comes with kind of this lifestyle of the women and the parties and everything else. So you're overspending like crazy. Like you're spending, one lady told me that her and her husband would go on vacation and spend $15,000 like it was nothing. He was making a couple $1 million a year, playing overseas. He wasn't even playing in the NBA. He was playing overseas. And she said then suddenly the team stopped calling, but they were living paycheck to paycheck. They needed that money. They needed that income to pay the bills. And suddenly she said, I didn't plan on being married to a man who was unemployed. And I can't tell you how many times I heard this story with athletes. I mean, one lady, beautiful, drop dead gorgeous lady, married a guy out of college who got drafted in the NFL because he was a college superstar. he only played in the NFL for like a season and a half. The rest of the time, he was a depressed, drug addicted alcoholic who started beating her up and made her work two jobs until because he was waiting for the teams to call him. And eventually, after enough beatings and paying all the bills, she eventually divorced him. But a lot of us don't expect that story to end that way. And so, really, so that's why I asked you this question: how do you know if you're doing well financially? What does that really look like? And it's complex. It's complex. Some of it may come down to starting with just how you feel about your financial situation. My wife, I can't wait till my wife comes in. I'm trying to get her in here on Wednesday because she's a mental health expert, and you'd be amazed how many people are doing well financially, but because of financial trauma in their background or the way they were raised, they get up. They every day they wake up and they're worried about losing all their money. They might have $50 million in the bank, and they're looking at their bank balance constantly because they're worried about losing money because they have this experience of the pain of being broken, struggling financially. Warren Buffett actually is interesting. He has $168 billion in cash with Berkshire Hathaway, and just sitting in cash, waiting for an opportunity to buy a company or something. Most people would have bought something by now. He's not. He's just sitting on this cash. He's in his 90s. It's not as if he's taking it with him. It's not as if he's going to be around another 50 years. And also he every day he eats at McDonald's, and he said that when the market is up, I get the whole breakfast with the large orange juice, but when the market's down, I get the medium-sized orange juice because I want to save 50 cents or something. He said something very weird like that, which is just strange, which is the strangest thing. So anyway, long story short, a lot of it can be very psychological. In terms of how you feel and just sort of your emotional state. But actually, there are some ways, if you look at statistics and data, I'm going to give you guys some metrics that you can look at to figure out if you're doing better than the average person. Now, I want to make sure we set the standard, though. Most Americans are not doing that great financially. Most Americans are just not where I think that they need to be. It's just like everything else, though. Like capitalism is kind of a dirty bastard sometimes when it comes to keeping people unhealthy for very deliberate reasons. They want to keep you on edge financially. They want to keep you unhealthy physically. That's why they feed you all that crazy food that's giving everybody cancer. And then even relationships. There are even people that have theories, and they sound like conspiracy theories, but they're not completely out of touch, in my opinion, in terms of them being they're being possibly true. That say that even little things like not wanting the family to stay together, like sort of like getting everyone out of the house working instead of taking care of the kids. Also, just the idea of sort of pushing your kids out of the house at the age of 18. That these are all constructed ideas designed to strengthen the economy, to allow the capitalists at the very top to make more money. Because if we split the family up, then we actually make money when everybody's out there working and producing for the economy. And also, if the kids and the parents and everybody are all living separately, then you've got 5 or 6 people that are all paying rent separately, that are all separately doing their own individual battle with the landlord and separately figuring out how to pay the utilities, separately figuring out how to pay the car note and everything else, as opposed to doing that together as a group, as a team. So ultimately, I don't think it's out of the question that there could be some sort of issue there in terms of people. It's in terms of people being persuaded to do things individually, they could be done better collectively. I actually think that you should set your own standard on that. So here are 4 signs that you're doing better than the average American financially. One, if you have an emergency fund. Did you? I don't know if y'all know this, but less than 40% of Americans have enough savings to cover even a $1,000 emergency. If you have an emergency fund, and give me a yes if you feel like you could cover a $1,000 emergency. Put a yes in the chat. If the answer is no, then that's okay. Let's start building that emergency fund right away. But give me a yes if you're in this category. So if you have an emergency fund, you're doing better than 60% of all Americans. I don't know about you. I think that's kind of scary. Like, what do y'all? I mean, I think that's very scary to think about the idea of that many people being that financially vulnerable. Because a lot of things cost $1,000. A lot. There's a lot of. It's not hard for things to cost. I mean, pretty soon groceries are going to cost 1,000. I mean, not maybe in the next decade or so. I mean, it's crazy. Like $1,000. I mean, you can't really get rent in a if you live in a decent sized city, $1,000 won't even cover your rent if you live by yourself. And so, again, not shaming anyone that's in this category. This is by design, I believe. I think, but it's interesting because it's a challenging problem that's easily fixed. It's a challenging issue, but it's easily fixed. It's easily fixed, but you got to do it early, right? So if you don't want your kids in that situation, then that's why you buy them those shares of stock and stuff like that when they're young. So that when they get older, they'll have $100,000 or $200,000, and they'll be ready to go take on the world. So don't throw them out there with nothing. And so, yeah, the emergency fund. So this also speaks to some of the ideas that are unpopular for some people, like having a family and marriage and all that. When I got married, I thought about my marriage as an investment, and I said, okay, I'm invested in this person, which means that there's risk attached. It's very risky because if I marry a crazy person, I'm in trouble, right? I'm not going to be very happy. It could affect my mental health. It could affect my finances. It could affect a lot of things. But also, so I vetted. I took the time to really vet my wife, but then also there's a functional aspect of managing that investment. Every asset has to be managed, and the better the asset is managed, the better off the business is going to be. So the part of my goal to manage our asset called our family was to say, let's make sure that we take this powerful thing called a family, and let's make sure we just guide the ship in the right direction. Let's really learn the latest and best techniques on how we can resolve our disputes, how we can manage the children, how we can maintain stability. And I said, and also in my mind, I said, okay, stability starts with you boys. You got to be stable. You're the father. You're the head of the household. My wife is the head too, in her way, and I'm the head in my way. You have to present the stability that you're seeking in the house. So that led me to continuously do journeys about emotional intelligence and just really understanding how who I am and how I feel and where my flaws are and where my blind spots are and how I can be a better human being for the people around me, and then expecting that from them as well, and setting the standard, setting the tone. And because I can just tell you, I think I've told you guys before, and a lot of you that are married, a lot of you are married. How many of y'all married? Anybody married, got kids and all that? I know a lot of you are. Some of you don't have that yet, and it's okay. Whatever you want to do with your life is fine. But I just found that in order to do this, I remember just thinking, okay, if my wife and I do this right, it could really be great for everybody, right? She's a smart lady. She works extremely hard. She's got a lot of skill. We have been able to do a lot of great things together. But I said, man, if it goes bad and we start to really fight each other, it could be a complete mess. It could be a complete shit show, chaos. And so I was like, okay, well, let me start with me. Let me start with the things I can control. Because if you know anything about being married to a smart black woman, you ain't really gonna be able to just come and put the hammer down and tell her what to do all the time. Now, I don't know. Different women are different. My wife is not one of those like do what I say woman. Like I can't. That don't work here. And I mean, come on, we're all in the same community, and my speculation is about 75% of black people need therapy, like are diagnosably mentally ill because of the stuff we've gone through. I really believe that. I think we all crazy. Seriously, we go through so much stuff as kids that just is gonna make you nuts. And we and we even have things that we consider normal that are not normal. Like it's not normal that 76% of all black children grow up without their father in the house. That is not normal. I don't care what anybody says. Ain't nothing normal about that. You can't go to no Muslim community and expect to see something like that. You're not gonna see that in the Asian community. You're not gonna see that in most Latin American countries. Nobody thinks that's normal. But we're like, oh, my kids don't need no daddy. Or my son's fine. He didn't have no dad. Yeah, I'm not making fun of your son, okay? So let's just stop that right there. Let's not trigger each other. But I don't see anybody else really sort of even beginning to believe that not having the father with the children every day is normal or healthy. And so long story short, there's some difficulty there, right? There's some stuff that has to be worked through. And what's interesting to me is I don't think a lot of us even see our flaws. Like we think something's wrong with the world. Like the problem is out there. It's all these men or it's all these women, it's all these other people. And so one of my goals was to say, let's stop believing that the problem is always with her or that the problem is always with somebody else. No, the problem is with you. And it's okay for you to be you, but you got to find a version of you that's going to be able to live in a collaborative, cooperative space unless you want to be figuring it out all by yourself. Because I could be a 53-year-old single man out here just living, just doing stuff, getting into stuff, finding people to hang out with, and that's a fine lifestyle if that's what you choose. But I don't know necessarily if it always works out well. I'll just say that. So long story short, when I made that investment, I remember thinking let's figure out the benefits of having that person as a backup, right? You have these benefits like when you have two incomes, it's easier than one. I told you all when we went to go buy that car yesterday, I literally it was completely stress free for me. My wife, because again, she's a college professor who's super smart, who knows what she wants and kind of does her thing. I sat there, watched her just talk to the guy, pick the car she wanted, negotiate the price, sign the documents, and I was watching football games on my phone. And I remember just thinking, and not one time did she say, "Hey, Boyce, we need your credit card for the down payment," or "Hey, Boyce, I need you to do this," or "Hey, Boyce," no, I just sat there and I was on my phone watching football games, and I just thought, I wonder how normal that is. Maybe in most families, they think the man is supposed to be up there barking back and forth with the car dealer, or maybe I'm supposed to pay everything or whatever. But that wasn't what it was. And it's not like there's a textbook that tells you it's supposed to be that way. I didn't even know it was going to be that way. If she'd asked me for money, of course I would have gave it to her. But I just sat and watched and said, okay, well, you know what? The best thing I can do in this situation is to completely support this person as she does something that's very important to her, something that she really wants. She wanted that car. She liked the color red. She really wanted to do it. And I was like, go for it because I don't care. Because I'm never going to complain about driving a Mercedes, right? So my point is to say that I think these little trade-offs, again, not that we have it all perfect, but I encourage you to consider these little trade-offs, especially if you get into relationships, not romantic. I'm not talking about just romantic relationship. I'm talking about any relationship, a business relationship, a friendship, anything. If you get into a situation where you have a chance to win, I'm gonna be a football coach for a minute, basketball coach. If you get a winning team, try to keep the team's needs above your own. I think that's a simple idea. This is my simple suggestion. This is me being part Dr. Boyce, part Uncle Boyce, right? So part of this is driven by science, economic science, that says that if you can work collaboratively, you do better economically. But it's also driven by experience, where I've seen people lose major opportunities and really powerful situations because of maybe some type of unresolved issue, or it was something they refuse to let go of. Maybe they hold on to baggage, hold grudges, get mad over little stuff. Ego jumps in, like, no, I'm gonna prove to you that I did. You know what I mean? You know what I'm talking about? Where you let something small kind of get into your soul, and to make a point, you're like, I'm out of here. I'm gone. I ain't doing this. I ain't taking none of this crap. No, I'm okay with taking crap. I take crap until I'd say, well, that's not crap. I'm not taking that crap. But this crap over here, it's life. You make trade-offs, whatever. And I think that understanding that is really important. I don't know if people really talk about that. I just hear I hear a lot of people really saying that, like I refuse to settle in relationships. I'm not talking about marriage. I'm not just talking about marriage now, mind you. I'm talking about period, friendships, business partnerships, everything. I refuse to settle because I've got my standard. If so and so does not meet my standard, then they got to kick the curb or whatever. That's fine. But you gotta really understand that every constraint, this is me speaking mathematically now. In mathematics, remember I've told you all this, that every time you have a constraint, you are limiting your ability to find the optimal outcome. Every time you have a constraint, like like you're dating, you got a list of 38 things that the person has to fit, and if they miss two, then if they get two wrong on the test, they're out. You're what Every time you do that, you're limiting the potential pool of people that you could work with because you refuse to adjust yourself. You refuse to bend because somehow you think bending is a form of weakness. But if you look at the way material works, the strongest material is not the material that will break if you try to bend it. The strongest material is the stuff that's flexible. Am I right or am I right? This is the stuff that bends and can move with the environment and all that. Like the strongest material out here is the stuff that can actually adjust to the elements and be flexible, not the stuff that's like, if you bend me a little bit, I'm just gonna crack on you and the whole project's over. Don't do that. And if you want to know tips on how to get better at that, first of all, you can start by putting your ego to the side. There's a lot of ego floating around. I see when I hear people, especially when they talk about relationships online, it's always ego driven and it lacks any form of accountability. It's like, well, these women need to start doing this. Well, what you gonna do? What do you need to start doing? Or these men need to start doing that. These black men, da da da. Well, what are you adjusting? What you didn't? You should start with you. I just believe accountability starts at home. That's it. Period. Because the easiest thing for me to change in my household is Boyce. I don't have to ask permission to change Boyce. I can talk to him and he'll listen. So sometimes he listens, sometimes he don't. And I'll say, "Hey, Boyce, hey man, what you want, man? You Boyce, I think that maybe you could be a little more flexible on this particular issue because it's going to cause you some problems with the wife, your wife and your kids." Nah, I ain't doing that. I refuse to settle. Ain't nobody gonna tell me what to do. I'm a man. Well, okay, we know you're a man, Boyce, but maybe in this situation, you might win the battle but lose the war. So maybe we got to kind of stand down on some of this and sort of work this out. All right, man, whatever, man. Right? Because if you can't do that, then I don't think you're going to really do well in business or in life or in relationships. And when I looked at that first stat that said that most people don't even have an emergency fund that could cover a $1,000 expense, let me tell you a little secret. If you have other people that you can partner with to have that emergency fund, you're more likely to be able to achieve that goal. And I believe that the powers that be want to create a society where people don't stick together. Because the more people stick together, the more powerful people have their power threatened. They have their power threatened. Right now, Boeing is dealing with a major issue because all their employees got together and went on strike. that adds to all the other problems they have. So they're gonna have to pay billions of dollars because their employees got together and said, we want more money and we don't want a BS deal. So who's your clique? Who's your team? Who's your squad? I don't think that doing everything by yourself is a flex. That's not a flex. That's a sign that there's an issue. Either you haven't connected with the right people or you're not a good connector. People don't want to connect with you in that way. And I think not to make you feel bad about it, but I think it's something worth working on. Are you a good collaborator? Are you a good teammate? And I can tell you each day that's my goal in life actually is I wake up and I look at the people I care about, people, haters and what people I don't understand. I don't think about that very often. But the people that I've chosen for my team, I say, gosh, how do I be a good teammate? How do I make you feel better today? How do I enhance your life in some way? So when I meet even you all, like we're all teammates, right? Are we teammates? I hope we are. I when I meet you and you say, "Hey, Doc, you did this for me that helped me to accomplish this, and now my life is different because of something that you said or something that you did." That is confirming in my head, like, okay, good job, boys. You are doing your job. You're coming through for your teammates, and that keeps you safe because that means your teammates are going to come through for you. That is a simple idea that has existed for 10 billion years called reciprocity. Reciprocity means that stability, financial stability, or any other type of stability, emotional, financial, whatever, security is a boomerang. You tend to get what you give. And if you give nothing, you're gonna get nothing. So if you are restricted and afraid and have these high hurdles and rigid and rude and disrespectful and don't care about anyone, then guess what? The world's gonna give you exactly what you given it. Like if you ain't coming through for nobody, then I'm sorry, but ain't nobody gonna come through for you. And then maybe if you don't even understand this, you'll say, well, nobody ever comes through for me. That's why I don't come through for anybody. But you don't understand that maybe no one comes through for you because you never came through for anyone else. You understand? It's reciprocal. The world will give you back what you give. And the same thing is true economically. There's a whole 10,000 research papers written about the fact that if you have a group of people, a community of people, and they are giving to each other economically in a trusting way and have established protocols and standards for each other, that is going to be an economy that thrives. But an economy where everybody's restrictive and selfish and not thinking about other people, that economy is going to fail. So, like when FDR said, we have nothing to fear but fear itself, what he was saying is that when you are afraid, then you don't connect. When you don't connect, then you don't succeed. And I believe that we have a society that's built on keeping us afraid and keeping us disconnected. That's how all the politicians work to get your votes. I want you to listen to them and listen to how often Donald Trump or Kamala Harris will mention things designed specifically to scare you. Trump, the Haitians are eating cats and dogs, and it's going to be terrible. It's going to be World War III, right? Just whatever he's saying. And then you listen to Kamala, and I hear her. Oh my God, Project 2025. If he gets elected, it'll be the end of democracy as we know it. Y'all better hurry up and vote. I don't want to hear none of that. Don't you dare tell me nothing about fear. Don't try to get me operating on a low vibrational frequency. Don't try to trick me into reducing my consciousness level, because my consciousness isn't just thinking about this next election. My consciousness is thinking about what America is going to look like 20 or 30 years from now. My consciousness is thinking what the black community is going to look like 30, 40 years from now. That's where I want to be conscious of. I don't want to be conscious of this false idea that somehow whatever happens in the next 2 months is going to change everything. I don't believe you, because you've said it 50,000 times before. So just be thoughtful of that. Be mindful of that. And so just know, when you're talking about economic security, you're going to typically be more secure when you are trained and you train yourself and you get the specific skills required to learn how to collaborate with other people. Treat people with decency. One other rule that I have is, anybody I talk to, I try my best to be as nice as I can. I do. I want to be nice, because I don't know what you could do for me. I don't know what you're going to be able to do in the future. I don't know what you're becoming. I'm not going to disrespect you, because I don't know what I'm dealing with. So, and that rule has saved me. Believe me, I've met people where it seemed like they had nothing going on, and I was just being nice just to be nice. And then next thing you know, it turns out this person's got $50 million in the bank a couple years later, and I'm like, whoo, I'm glad I was nice to him. Because I let that ego jump in. Woo, buddies, I'd be paying the price for that. So anyway, let me keep going. Let me read the next thing. This is another way to know if you're doing above average financially. Oh, and one more thing I want to remind everybody is that if you want to get the notifications to join this class, we do this every morning, 7 days a week, at 10 a.m. Eastern. Just text the word morning, MORNING, to the number 87948. You can text morning to 87948. And also later on tonight, 8:30, those of you who are members of Prime, where we generate income by selling stock options, I really want to make sure you come to class tonight, because we're doing something really special based on a breakthrough that I just sort of figured out mathematically. And I'm going to lay it all out in a presentation tonight at 8:30. So if you are a member of Prime, you can come on in. If you're not a member, feel free to go take a look. There's a training I did called How to Make Money Without Working, where you can kind of see the logistics of what we do and sort of how it all works. And that's free. So here is the link to that. If you guys want to take a look at that and just sort of watch it and just see what you think, I think you're going to like it. I think you're going to find it solves a lot of your economic challenges there. All right. So there we go. So there's the link in the chat. All right. So let's go through this list. All right. So number one was, if you have an emergency fund, you're doing better than 60% of all Americans, because only 40% of all people can have enough savings to handle a $1,000 emergency. Number two, if you invest regularly, how many of you invest regularly? Give me a yes if you're a regular investor. All the investors say yes. Please give me lots of yeses. If you ever want to make me happy and give me a Christmas gift, those of you who said no or who are not investing yet, turn that no into a yes by the end of the year. Please do that, because I've told you all, I keep saying this, that the number one wealth builder in America is the stock market. All the data shows this, all the studies show this, all the research shows this. I'm not influencing you financially. This is financial science. So I want you in the stock market. If you go to blackwealthmasterplan.com, that's where the $5 a day plan is. That'll get you started. Just start with baby steps. Don't do the big stuff yet. Just do the baby stuff. And just go to blackwealthmasterplan.com. You can take a look, because they said that if you invest regularly, you're doing better than most people, because only 55% of Americans own stocks, and many do not invest consistently over time. Most people don't invest consistently. So if you own stock and you invest consistently, you're going to be better than most people financially, and even better, your children and grandchildren are going to do far better than most people. They're going to be millionaires. They're going to be doing well. They're going to be very privileged. All right, number three, if you carry little or no credit card debt. Now that's a big one. That's a tough one. The average American household, they said here, if there's 5,700 in credit card debt, actually it's more like 6,300 now. I think that these numbers need to be updated. My grandmother, shout out to my grandmother Felicia. That's our Panther in the back. Our Panther's name is Felicia. She used to have no credit card debt. She never made more than $22,000 a year, but she saw debt as almost like a type of slavery. So for her, she just really had no interest in going in debt at all. That's not a very popular idea, because you're constantly encouraged to take on debt to purchase consumer items in particular. And there was actually a Harvard professor I was listening to, and I respect what he was saying, and he said that all the studies show that basically if you want to be miserable financially, then keep using your credit card to buy consumer items. He said that is something that will just stress you out like crazy. However, debt is not always bad. Debt can be a wonderful thing, but debt must be used in an intelligent, strategic, calculated way so that you can actually turn it into more money. Debt is supposed to be an asset that becomes a financial machine. The financial machine becomes your own personal ATM, which generates more money for you over time, and then you're better off because of the debt. So don't ever think debt is 100% bad or 100% good. It depends on the context. But most Americans have credit card debt. Credit card debt is over $1 trillion, I believe, and it's at an all-time high. And basically, that is one of the reasons that people are feeling so much financial stress. And I believe, again, I think this is something that they actually want in the economy because it keeps the economy strong. Corporations are strong, their profits are maxed out, and then people also have to go to work to pay off the debt. So if you're deep in debt and you're spending like a lunatic, and then you have to come to work to pay off the debt for the things that you spent money on. Well, guess what? That keeps the machine going. And so at the very least, whatever you're doing with your money financially, part of the reason you want to be a stockholder is because the companies that sell these shares of stock are the ones who are benefiting from all the debt that's being created in the economy, from all the spending that's being done. So if you're gonna participate as a big spender, at least create a system where you're able to generate some income from the spending that's happening in this economy. You're giving the money away, get some of that back by owning shares of stock. So you're gonna go, put an iPhone on your credit card. Well, get you some Apple stock. If you went back 20 years and a person simply bought Apple stock every time they bought an iPhone, that person would have hundreds of thousands of dollars. It was some ridiculous number. I couldn't believe it. Somebody said if you literally took the amount of money it would cost to buy an iPhone going back to like 2007, and the same time you always bought an equal amount of Nike stock, you would have ridiculous amounts of money. I want to say it was between one and $200,000 or something like that. So just balance, have that balance. All right. So number four, this is the fourth way to know that you're doing above average financially. If you max out your retirement account, they said only 12% of workers max out their 401k plans. And this is cultural, people. This is cultural. Anybody remember me talking about that SNL skit where they did Black Jeopardy? I don't know if anybody's ever seen Black Jeopardy on SNL. This skit just burned me up. It made me so mad. Leslie Jones and her big goofy butt, she did this skit with Black Jeopardy. Tom Hanks was there. And Jeopardy, if you remember, Jeopardy is a show where they will give you the answer and then you ask the question. So the answer was your boss wants to take $50 a week out of your paycheck so you can put it into your 401k. And she hit the button. She said, Alex, she said, no, you better give me my $50 back so I can buy me some scratch offs. She did like completely stereotypical, buffoonish as all get out. I didn't like it. I'm sorry. I know some people think it's funny and it's fine. Coonery is funny. Minstrel shows were hilarious. But this was a problem for me as a finance guy because I said, what you're doing is you are doubling down on broke culture. You're doubling down on the same culture that creates so much financial devastation. You're literally cementing the idea that if you're black, you would rather buy a scratch off than invest for your future. You're doubling down on the idea that I would rather have the instant gratification of a lottery ticket that's going to be worthless than to actually do something for my children. So you're literally presenting and maintaining and strengthening this false idea that black people don't even love their kids. Black people can't sacrifice for nothing. Black people have no discipline. Black people are ignorant as hell. And black people love being broke. That's what you're doing. That's what you're doing. When you literally are like, oh, this is Black Jeopardy. This is what black people do. And then I'm sure if they were to ask about food and all that, it'd be like, no, we want to eat the unhealthy stuff. I want to eat the fried chicken with the battery acid because I want to die from cancer and diabetes by the time I'm 45 years old. Like that's the image. That's the impression. Or you want to go to school and read books? No, I don't want to read no books. I want to be a rapper or a basketball. I want to play ball and rap. That's what I'm going to do. Who wants to read books when you can just watch TV? Right? This is the image that they have of us. This is what is perpetuated in the media. It drives me crazy. It's silly to me because it has real consequences. It has real consequences because when people experience financial stress, that's what puts you right into slavery. That's what makes you a slave. If you want your kids to be a slave, it's very easy to do. All you got to do is do what everybody else is doing. If you want your kids to be slaves, very simple. Don't invest for them at all. Just don't buy them nothing. Just make sure they say they have zero assets. What else would you do? Number two, never ever teach them to have any skill other than how to fill out a job application. If all you do, if you say, look, here's how you succeed, you fill out the application, you do the interview, make sure the white people like you, then you're gonna be okay. If they don't like you, then you're done. Right? That's another way. Keep them ignorant as hell. Make sure they don't get a good education. Make sure they, have her spend all her time twerking, and make sure the boys are spending their time playing basketball and stuff. Don't be education's for suckers. That's for losers. That's for lames. That's for squares. Right? What else? Let's see here. Oh, if you traumatize them, that'll really help, right? You traumatize them, teach them how to not have healthy relationships with other people, so that she'll be a strong black woman who don't need no man, and he'll be a man who said, well, I ain't taking care of no kids because that's going because I could be out to the club, I could be out getting some. Why would I want to be taking care of a woman and kids, right? But I'm gonna go make some babies, but I ain't taking care of no babies because the government got that. My baby mamas, they all could take care of it. Do you ever see that where people they had the rapper Future went on Twitter and he said, I want to say thank you to all my babies mamas for holding it down with my kids. And I was like, you sound like such a loser right now. You sound like the exact opposite. Whatever a man is, you sound like the exact opposite. But what's interesting is and fascinating is they will market this as a black man. They will market this. And so a lot of young ladies who don't know any better will literally think that that's an example of manhood when that's not manhood. I don't know what that is. Even animals would be like man, you speak for yourself. I don't even bears and lions and stuff can think on a higher level than that, right? So ultimately this is kind of what so yeah, if you want your kid to be a slave, that's what you do. You just make sure they're fully unprepared, that they're unaware, that they're not that they have no resources to turn to, that they have no healthy relationships nor the ability to create them or maintain them, and they don't even value good relationships. They value stuff like Coach purses and Gucci belts and or whatever like that. Like have them value stupid stuff like that, and then also make sure they never ever ever learn how to invest, never ever ever learn how to own property, and that they never ever ever learn how to start a business, because then at that point the only options for them financially will be to work for other people, to take that money that they make working and to give it to the landlord and then spend the rest at the mall, so they live in the cycle of poverty, living paycheck to paycheck in the struggle all by themselves. And then if you have a son, make sure he creates lots of babies mamas, so that whatever little nickels he might be able to rub together, they're gonna take all that money to make sure that he's paying his child support. So do that, and then you'll have a slave. That's how you build a slave in America. I think that's what I really firmly believe that this is what they expect you to do, and this is what they trained you to do. Now, but again, if you want your child to be free and independent, then you do the opposite. You just do the opposite. That's it. Everything I just said, do the opposite. So we talked about ignorance. Well, give them knowledge. We talked about only knowing how to fill out a job application. Well, the child that's not a slave knows how to make money 50 different ways. Swiss Army knife. They know how to start a business. They can go buy real estate. They can go and sell stock options. They can buy shares of stock. They got a million different ways to make money. Also, the again the slave child has no resources when he's 25 years old. The free child has a family that thought about their life long before it actually happened. They invested in delayed gratification to create a capital base, so this kid is 25, he doesn't even have to go to work every day. And it just keeps going on. And then culturally, the slave kid is the guy who thinks I can go make 8 babies mamas and it's going to be all right, because as long as I'm having healthy orgasms, then my life is good. But then the smart kid says, no, my seed is valuable. I don't want to go and use my power of manhood to go and create chaos and create a whole bunch of broken homes that are going to eventually break me financially as well and create a lot of stress. Right. So literally the exact opposite. Same thing. Same thing with the little girls. Right. You got the slave child who goes who's trained on that Cardi B path to success, and then you've got the free little girl who's given all the tools of not just the education and everything else, but and then also maybe some financial resources, but also given the tools for healthy relationships. Like, I'm going to pick me a quality man to build a family with, so that we can be financially secure together and help each other out. And we're also going to be trained on the specific tools required for us to maintain a healthy relationship. So I'm not out here struggling trying to do it by myself, because my parents were smart enough to tell me that the lowest median net worth in America is that of a single black mother with children, that nobody has a lower net worth in this country than a single black mother with kids. kids. So love my kids. Sometimes things don't work out, but I'm going to do everything I can to try to minimize the probability that I end up in one of the categories of people that ends up struggling financially because the stress is way too much. It ain't just the lack of money, it's the presence of all the other sociological problems that can emerge when you don't have enough money, right? So it's not just not having the money, it's the anxiety, it's the cortisol levels that are killing you, giving you cancer and stressing you out. You can't even buy healthy food. You can't take a break to do it to live your best life or to be comfortable for a little while. You can't do any of that stuff. And then on top of that, just that whole stress of like, just I mean, life is hard, man. Life is really hard as it is. I don't think we should keep letting people train our kids to make life harder than it is. Like it's kind of already hard. Like I'm a black man and I've been a black man for quite a while now. And I do like it. I'm gonna stick with it, I think. But it was hard. It was hard, and I just think about it and I was like, man, it was hard for me. And I actually had some parents that gave me some pretty good values, like hard work, sacrifice, education, don't do nothing stupid, like, and I can only imagine if I had ignorant parents who told me to do things that were not going to make me uh whole and complete as a grown man. Like I do have a dad. My parents are in their 50th wedding anniversary next month. They'll hit number 50, and I have a father who, if I get into it with my wife, and if I was to come home and say I'm done, I can't stand that lady, he would say, go home to your wife, figure it out, put your ego to the side. And a lot of people don't even have that, something as basic as that. So I think that, again, going back to, and I talk about this a lot in my book. My book is called The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power. You can get a copy if you want at drboycebooks.com. Basically, I really, after thinking about black wealth for 30 years now, I realize culture is such a big part of it. Culture is everything. Culture is more valuable than education, because if you don't have the right culture, then the education won't matter. Like if you teach me how to fix cars, but my culture tells me that fixing cars is stupid and fixing cars is for suckers, then I'm not going to be a very good mechanic. But if you teach me how to fix cars, and I grew up in a culture where my uncle fixes cars, and the people that got the most respect are the ones who are the best car mechanics and all that, then I'm going to want to be good at that, right? I'm going to apply that to my life because that is something that is valued. So it's not just a lack of education. It's not just racism. I mean, racism is definitely present everywhere, right? I think racism, in fact, one of the most insidious parts of racism is not just people blocking you from having certain things or somebody not liking you because you're black. The One of the most insidious parts of racism is when they get so deep into your subconscious mind that they create a scenario where you're actually harming yourself. And then someone says, well, you can't blame the white man for that. But I'm like, no, I blame him too. I still blame him because he owns the TV networks that are putting losers on TV and telling me that these are grown black men, that these are men that I should be admiring. When the real men that I admire are the ones that you won't ever see on TV. Most of the black men that I admire the most are the men that will never ever be on TV. I admire Louis Farrakhan, and you know how they feel about him. But to me, he's a man. Brother Nuri Muhammad, that's a man right there. You ain't gonna hear about Brother Nuri doing none of those things that you see being heavily promoted. So that degeneracy is something that is it's a multi-trillion-dollar problem in the black community. It's a multi-trillion-dollar problem because it's very anti-family, it's very anti-intellectual, it's very anti-wealth, it's very anti-black. So when they're promoting degeneracy, just know that they are taking trillions of dollars out of your community, and they're literally keeping you in a cage. They're literally getting you to operate on the frequency of an animal. They are disrupting and undermining your ability to have consciousness, because even when you have a little consciousness, it's very, very hard. You have to be committed to it, because even black people around you will make fun of you. Even black people around you will say, what are you doing? Like, that's stupid. Or these conscious black people, they all blah, 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 right? That's what they'll do. Even people around you that love you will make fun of you for having a consciousness level where you say, I don't really want to participate in that. And so this is why I have an appreciation for some of the hip hop artists that understand this, that are trying to shift this. I think Kendrick Lamar just came out with a song called Watch the Party Die. And I listened to the lyrics very carefully, and I said, I get it. I bet you if I was to talk to him, he would tell me that he's getting sick of the mass promotion of black male degenerate culture. He's sick of it. And I just sat there, and I remember thinking, yeah, I've been sick of this stuff for a long time. And even in college, I was like, what do you? I would see all these guys around me, and the drinking and just like, y'all don't want to go to the library, but everybody want to go to the step show, and I just, and it was strange because because I was like, it should not be this hard for me to want to be successful. It should not be this hard for me to say, hey, I want to go to the library. I don't want to do all that stuff. But there's a lot of pressure against the kids to even sort of try to elevate in that way. Because like if you're a young boy and you're trying to be cool and you're trying to get the girls to like you, and the girls are brainwashed to want the guys who are going to be the biggest losers, then you sort of feel like something's wrong with you. And fortunately, I just didn't give a damn. The best gift I ever had, and I'm gonna say this and I'm gonna be done because I'm rambling now, but I hope that this stream of consciousness is helping somebody. But the best gift I ever had was that when I grew up, I did not connect to white people because I was black. I was too black, and I didn't connect to black people because I wasn't black enough. I wasn't that type, I wasn't a stereotypical black, right? And that was the best thing ever because what it did was at first, after you get over the isolation and not having as many friends as you'd like to have, or having people think that you're weird, you then start you're free. You then get the freedom to just be who you're supposed to be and to decide on things in a more conscious way. Like you can choose certain things. Like when I got to college, I didn't. I was like, why does everybody go to the club? And I noticed most people would just go to the club because other people did it. And I went one time and I just said, this is weird. People just sit around and the music's too loud and you start drinking, your breath stinks, you do stupid stuff, you vomit at the end of the night, and you're bored. It's so boring in here. This is not fun for me. So I started doing something else. So again, it doesn't mean that you can't have fun doing these things. And maybe I was a little extreme because I was ambitious. I wanted to be successful at the highest levels. But my dream one day for Black youth is that those who want to succeed at the highest levels, those who want to make the straight A's and want to become millionaires and want to become high achievers and want to build strong families, that they will have a cohort that's just as strong as the other side, where you've got millions of our kids, unfortunately, who've just been trained to value all the wrong things. Like I really believe, honestly, like when I think about hip hop, I'm a big hip hop fan. If you notice, mumble rap was started mainly by the rapper Future, the degenerate I told you about with the eight babies mamas, where he was online thanking all his babies mamas for taking care of his responsibility. He started around 2011, and I believe that a big reason that that rap, you hear the music where you can't even understand the lyrics, and they're literally talking like they sound like little babies or something. It's real weird, right? I think that became very popular, and certain parts of that culture became popular because in the public school system, you got this whole thing with millions of our kids that are not even being taught how to read. So if you have millions of kids that were put on ADHD medication at an early age, never taught how to read, write, and do math, have no very little value for the kind of nerdy things like reading and all that. I think that music would be more appealing to them. Like it's like, okay, let's not talk about anything serious. Let's just go pop some mollies and have some fun. And I think that this is it's going to be interesting to see how that culture evolves because not every young person's in that space for sure. A lot of them are doing great things. I mentor a lot of young people who are kicking butt, taking names, and ready to go conquer the world. But there are a lot of people under the age of 30 mostly that I really worry about because I'm sitting there thinking, because I see what they're doing over there. I see what the white people are doing at the highest levels. I see what the Asian people are doing at the highest levels. I see how China's raising their kids. And I'm like, huh, how are you going to compete with that? Like I met, like I've met a guy from Switzerland who wasn't anything special. He didn't have any high level advanced degrees. All he had was a bachelor's. But I literally was able to talk to him about science and economics at a PhD level, and he understood everything I was talking about. It wasn't like, oh wow, you're just talking over my head. No, he understood. Because he just learned these things because in their schools they teach them stuff. They graduate and they know, the scientific method and the periodic table and they know about biology and all that. They really actually truly learn. Here we just kind of pretend to learn. So anyway, long story short, I think that a lot of the financial problems that you see stem from cultural and educational problems. So you have to sort of be conscious of all these systems, figure out how you're going to fit into that, and how you're going to override some of that, and that's how you create successful families, successful people, and all this. Because all these four things, like I mentioned earlier, with that literally 40% of all only 40% of all Americans can handle a $1,000 emergency. That's a problem that's easily fixed. Investing regularly, that's easily fixed. BlackWealthMasterPlan.com, it's free, it's easy to get started. You can get started in 5 minutes. Carry little to no credit card debt. That's a little tougher, but that's a result of financial addictions related to excessive spending that's trained from birth. And then the fourth, maxing out your retirement plan. That really just comes down to having a parent or something that you respect telling you what to do. Do you know? I know a woman who is a millionaire right now. She has $1 million in her 401k right now. And I said, "How did you get so much money in your 401k? Good for you. Way to go." And you know what she said? She said, "Well, I never took a finance class. I don't know anything about money." And I said, "That's okay." And she said, "But my dad told me that when I put money in my 401k, I should max it out." And that's what she did. She didn't know anything about what exactly they were investing in. She kind of had some idea, but she didn't know which stock she owned or anything. She literally all she did was max out the 401k because her daddy told her to do it. So this tells you the importance of the simple ideas. It's the simple ideas that make the biggest difference, not the complex stuff. And then also it tells you the value of her having a daddy that she respects enough to listen to. Think about how many millions of black girls don't even like their daddy. That right there, just that right there, that's a multi-trillion-dollar loss for the black community that you grow. Yeah, imagine if 76% of black children or a big percentage of black kids didn't hated their mama. Imagine what kind of man I would be if I was like, well, these women out here, they all like my mama. My mama wasn't nothing. My mama was on drugs. My mama she used to beat me, and I mean, that right there, every a lot, a big chunk of who I am would completely vanish and be replaced if I simply grew up hating my mother, right? But so the fact that she just had a daddy who knew a little something something, he didn't know a lot, but he just said, "Well, max out your 401k." You can read that in a book in 30 seconds. He probably saw it on a TV commercial or something, right? And he told her, "Max out your 401k. If they offer you a matching plan, just max it out." That's what she did. Now she's a millionaire. It ain't that hard. It's the little things, people. I want you to just understand. Never underestimate the power of the little things because the little things are what create the big. That's it. I'm done. Thank you for listening. It was great to see you, and I apologize if my yelling offended anybody. I will be back yelling again tomorrow morning. We do this every morning at 10 a.m. So if you want to get on the text list, just text the word morning to the number 87948. Text morning to 87948, or you can also go to b1moneytips.com. If you live overseas and you can't text, just type B, the number one, b1moneytips.com, and you can join this class for free. We do this every day. Once again, tonight at 8:30, we are going to do stock options, income training. We're going to do that. And so if you want to just sort of learn what we're doing, those of you that are members of Prime, you can definitely come for free. But if you want to see what we have going on there, here's a link to a training I did called How to Make Money Without Working. And you can take a look at that to see if this is the kind of thing that interests you. I like stock options. I sold my options this morning and got some money from that. So it's a great way to generate consistent income. All right, guys. And those of you who don't see the link, just text the word money to the number 87948, and you'll get it via text. It'll come right back to you right at that second. So text money to 87948. All right, guys. So have a good day. God bless you. And next time I'll try not to yell. I gotta do a survey to see how y'all feel about that. I don't mean to yell, but this is stuff that I'm obviously passionate about it, and I appreciate you coming to hear me share this. All right, so have a good day, everybody. I'll see you.